right. Hello, everybody. This is Empty Turtle. I'm here with Dr. David Jubb, and this is JUBBTALK. And, we got a good one for you tomorrow. The election is here. Thank goodness it'll be over soon. And good luck to whoever the hell it is you're voting for. Dr. Jubb.
If that was being heard in 6 years' time, would that be universal or dating someone's experience? Because no, it's true. We were talking about those words.
Election?
Well, yeah, you mentioned the word election. Okay, but what? Okay, election, yes.
Yeah.
Well,
and
is that the right word, though? I'm just wondering. To elect.
Well, we're looking to select, right?
Right? I think that's what we should get into. Because select, to be selected.
Yeah.
Yes. It means you're looking at something. You go. Your hand reaches into a bin to select something.
Now,
you don't. If you got ordered something and you gave some money, but someone else decided to give you, a fizzy drink instead, which you asked for something else, but you're getting a fizzy drink. It was somebody made something else, because it's sort of like when you select, it's like you're right there.
Okay.
Yeah, you're seeing, and you're electing. You see, you're selecting, and so when you're electing, it sort of means that it's sort of sensory removed.
Okay, so
the sensation is removed. Somebody else or something else is going on, and it's like up to something else sort of thing.
Are we selecting our candidate tomorrow, or were they already selected for us?
What would you imagine that most people, Americans, have told me that actually only has one team, one group of people who own both teams?
Oh, of course.
Yeah, but I mean,
I believe it.
Well, it's not supposed to be right. I mean, because it's not sportsmanship. But
Fair game.
Yeah, but is there people who actually own both teams?
That's not fair game, is it?
Well, it starts to be sort of something that's not sportsmanship, because somebody's sort of got another god going on inside. It's not play. It's sort of like you're split. So somebody's got dollar signs might be in their eyes. So, but coming back to the word election, where you have this, if the same process was only ever used and not anything else, but it was so modified, but it always could be modified because it was one corpse or one trust basically that owned all 197 other corporations of other nations, for instance, and it was just a chessboard for them. Yes?
Are you telling me that the election tomorrow is just a show, a movie? It's not real?
What's real is a better thing, but to point out the things which isn't. But you could something is real because something is continuous, but it's a fact that would be yesterday, and it would be a fact tomorrow too, and then the days after still would be a fact. But what would be the difference between transient perception and a fact?
A fact is the truth.
Yeah, fact is truth.
And
that's
transient perception is truth plus your perception of it.
Illusionary. Illusionary.
On how you see it.
Well,
opposed to the next person.
But what makes it truth then?
Well, truth is what? Opportunity and what? Beneficial.
That's right. It's a mutually what's mutually beneficial.
Okay, truth is what's mutually beneficial.
Yeah, like a monk would have been a young boy or young girl. She would have been taught
have to agree
that she'd have to be the servant's servant, and that would be the lead whore. You see.
Okay.
The servant's servant is the lead whore, but then the master of who? Self is the master. Where we're looking at anything, But what you could have a bit of a challenge because, like, well, the word elect. How does this happen? Could you tell me? I'm not sure. Go. What do you think?
Well, I think we're selecting a president.
Yeah, but that word is not really right, is it? Because it's elected. So how did that happen? Did it happen from a political action committee?
No. Yes, it did. The PACs.
Oh, the PAC.
Yes, political action committee.
Oh,
they go
but no,
around.
hold on. Yeah, but you see,
Thwarting
is that
wannabes.
money?
Pick the best.
But is it money?
Of course.
Yes.
Are you kidding me?
And if you were in a turn on me, or could you be a bit of a flip flopper? I mean, take the side of somebody, take the side of somebody else
Highest
next, and be able
Highest
to.
bidder gets the
Yes.
prize.
Yes, but okay, but you can't be sort of flip flopping. But anyway, so.
Oh, okay, tell that to one.
Well, there's issues first you've raised, definitely, because like if it was sports you were talking about, you're not happy if so one bloke owns both teams. That's going to be not quite right.
You have two terms that people really need to hear today about the election, and the first one is what? Precognitive.
Oh. Well,
Precognitive.
Well, everything that I've ever said, of course, on other shows and everything, is about something going on before you
They need to hear this.
think.
Yeah.
Yes, before you jump across a puddle or something. Have you ever tried to jump across a puddle and you've run and all of a sudden you've seen, oh, you're not going to make it?
Sure.
You couldn't pull yourself out of it.
Yeah, it's
It was too you were committed, but you knew this is going to not work when you were a kid. Okay. But,
precognitive.
yeah, well,
Can you give me the term for them, please?
Oh, well, meaning you've got something 6 seconds that's gone on in your brain that a neurologist can see well before you're conscious of selecting something.
6 seconds.
In other words, no, you and I, we've all got conditioning in the way that we select information.
Okay.
And so that can be a bias, you see.
Precognitive
Commitment.
commitment.
The meaning, a good example would be, for instance, we get used to the idea that we're not selecting. Well, you can't use that word because it's not true in the circumstances. Because, as you said, it's elected. So what does that mean? Elected. What's Ted? It's the last thing is most important. Everything else modified. Ted. You see.
Okay. So precognitive commitment. Would that describe Republicans and Democrats?
The word
they have
E
a
for
precognitive commitment already.
modifiers. S as a sound is shaping things. The word S as a, right? S, E is for energy. L is for everything that's about what's level and strategy. And that you have energy and you're seeing, and it can have a point of completeness, T, right?
Okay.
And I-O-N is I, and O is whole, and N is complete. So you have selection, you see. So every sound has, or every word really actually means an action, actually, you see. So, but, well, certainly, you and I, we select in a Republic of Peace, that would be the social compact that we've chosen, because that's what the Americans have told me. That's their most popular thing they care about, because that's in the Articles of Confederation, and it's common law, and it's really common custom here. We have a common custom here, whereas you have a claim, you have the ability to be able to discharge that, you see. But if you can't discharge a charge, this is going to be a bit of a problem, isn't it? It could be controlled, couldn't you?
Yes.
If you cannot discharge a charge, couldn't you be controlled?
Yep.
Well, what happens when you can discharge a charge? You see, it means zero out. That's a real reset, isn't it? But you could really learn what a real reset is, where you are your own self, where things are like you were pointing out. But a pre-cognitive commitment, like a good example would be, for instance, you might think, gee, I don't think I should go to war, right? but then the community saying, "Hey, Johnny,
let's go to war."
No, Johnny's going to war. Johnny is going to war. Johnny does go to war, you see. So you didn't make those rules, but someone else did, and they caused your group thing to be outside yourself, sort of as a big group thing, and that group think is controlling people sort of generally, right? So, but like if you were just part of a society that there was only, like for instance, the Pope, for instance, be only your boss.
Okay.
Well, that's Abelgate. That's what that means, Abelgate. It's sort of like the Pope is your boss, not anybody else. But if that boss isn't cared too much that you might have dollar signs in your eyes and everything is set up to be predatorial, do you have a feeling that people could be split because they could have dollar signs in their eyes and not, they've got a roly-poly there, not a soul, and they're meeting everybody as a role, not a soul. Yes? Okay.
Yeah.
So this is sort of an example of a meaning something's going on before you're thinking of doing something, and that is shaping the way you're thinking about things, basically.
Would our school system be precognitive commitment?
Well, in the BC era where they had universities and had massive, treatise or form, suddenly somebody comes along and they could see something which must have taken many, many years of investigation, and you can see it in fact, you see. So today we've got, like, somebody's given the highest distinction you could be given in the world academically is a PhD. And it is reason for what? Because you are logic. You're getting a degree in the most sophisticated level of logic that be possible academically. If it wasn't through a mill, then you did it by some process which was traditional. Did you get a square hat? Or did you get a round hat or a square hat?
What's the difference? A square hat is bachelor's.
A square hat is you're just into fiction and that's all you ever did.
Really?
And if you're into a round hat, you're into actual logic.
Okay.
And you're the master.
All right.
So there could be only 3 or 4 at the whole university, but when you look around, that's
a great way to see it.
Round hat.
It's a great way to see it, and hey, give a shout out to all PhDs, because that's a lot of work too. It really is.
Well, yes, but it actually could be just quants. They could be quants.
Quants?
Yeah.
No, man. I don't know. Quants, is that like something in the quantum field?
Yeah, they could be just quants and not qualitative.
Yeah.
It's into quality versus quantifying. So if you're a qualitative researcher, that's what I've done. You have to really study way more than just being a quant. Can't be just a quant. You have to actually be logical, really. It has to have cause and effect. So it really actually causes you to have to think about confounding variables that exist in the picture where someone is.
Precognitive commitment.
Yeah.
Give me an example where it's being used on us during an election.
Oh, okay. Well, we're happy that there's just 2 sides, basically.
We're happy with that.
Well, you can't have a game where 3 sides are in the game. How does that work? I'm not sure. You see,
it makes it difficult.
No, it's not. It could be a game, you see.
What?
Yes. That's what's happening with these game boards and all sorts of things where teams and things are all going. Now you're actually teaching people to form a team. Yeah. Yes? But what if you weren't ever formed?
Republican or Democrat?
No, what's the reason why women have not had ease of ability? It's not just a natural thing for them to form a team.
Makes sense.
No. Is it because actually they weren't selected because of the colour of their socks? But you were selected on the team because, you were a big haunch.
Of course. Absolutely.
Well, you'd have to be not gangly. You wouldn't be selected on the team if you were gangly, right?
Depends on what the game is.
Well,
maybe gangly could be an advantage.
Well, could you be so intelligent that you couldn't cross the road?
No.
Yes, no, you could. You could be intelligent. You know a lot about, mathematics or something, but you might not know how to do anything.
I think vision alone can help
Okay.
you.
Well, that's sort of quantifying a lot, but not equality is something.
Okay, so an example during an election, what are they using?
Oh,
Precognitive.
Well-
Oh, the team thing, right? They're setting us up for two sides, two people.
well, we are imagining that something is free, first of all. Like on the 4th of July, everybody's cheering, right?
Yes.
But when they're surveyed and they're asked, do they feel free?
No.
Well, they kind of are a bit conflicted with that question because you were supposed to be celebrating
It's tricky.
at the
It's
time.
tricky.
Do you know what I mean? But no, you do get a conflict going on
Yeah.
there with that question because it's not completely true, right? So that's called being love bombed.
We were precognitively
That's be called love bombed.
committed to that holiday.
Well, a
4th of July?
holy days all come from honouring certain things, and it's a care that we have. Like we would go next to places which actually would enhance your ability to think.
Really?
Well, yeah, that's what they did, things like that. But today it's a bit frozen logos, you know. They're not no care because an asymmetric warfare can be being fought, and who's talking about that?
I'm not.
Yes,
yet.
but
Let's
well,
talk
some
about it
people
right
are in politics. But what about
Asymmetric
banking
warfare.
itself and currency?
now. What about it?
Well, it involves a little bit maybe money mechanics, and if you didn't know
Manipulation.
that, would you be frightened to talk about it?
I'm afraid to talk about anything with you. Dr.
Yes,
Singh.
but what about Israel, for instance, too? All sorts of topics, you see. A lot about Ukraine, and what about here? And what's the difference in the numbers, actually, of people dying when you've got drugs that are lethal that people take inadvertently here, the drug death and things from certain compounds like ISO, it's extreme. Right? Only small amounts of substance like that really is
fentanyl.
never.
I mean, just a tiny bit of fentanyl will kill somebody.
Well, it shuts people's less and allows you to have respiration.
It's terrible. And it's being allowed to happen. I have a problem with it.
Ageism is being allowed to happen. That's the science of only you being a human mineral, because of course, which that you are,
Okay.
in the system, because you didn't select that. You're not part of that compact at all.
I was committed.
You're
I
a
was
strange whore,
pre-diagnosed,
actually.
committed.
We all are a strange whore. That's kind of what people are part of your family.
What was the other term I wanted to bring up? Selective bias. That's it. That's another thing that has to do with elections. Selective bias.
So if it wasn't known that a firm, if I had that in a faraway nation, which could do this, because it would be okay for them to do, but not us, you see, because it's legal to do, sorts of psyop operations, but it's only to do it on another corpse, not your corpse, sort of thing. And so every corpse is doing it to every other corpse, sort of thing, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So, well, but if we didn't know those things, but what about Aladdin computing that sits below, a mile below the surface of the earth, where Geneva is there?
I've never even heard of Aladdin
Yeah,
computing.
but it
What
can
is
make bets that in one day, everyone on the stock floor would have had to be there for the day for the whole year.
Okay. Now?
And it bets 40 years into the future. What if everybody's just going to be buying from Kim or someone because Kim's bought everything up in the future?
Well, he was a smart one, right?
Well,
Buy everything.
No, but you see, monopolies, like I guess you're pointing out, doesn't seem right. Monopolies.
What I want to do, right, and I might have to get a loan for this. I want to buy the planet, right? And then I want to charge everybody for air. What do you think?
Yeah. You could always ask yourself, how could we buy fresh air, right? How can you buy fresh water?
I tried to.
Oh, but whatever we do to the trees and whatever we do to the beasts, forests, we do to ourselves, really, don't we? Sort of thing, yeah.
That's a good point.
When insects are no longer able to fly through the air, is that a reason no longer for fumaric acid not to be as a particle that's supposed to be in the air?
Sounds like it.
Well,
Sounds like
insects
that's the reason.
seem to be important because that's where you get that from.
They move
not
stuff
anything
around.
else. And if we don't have that in our body, what it does is it helps break tissue down that's solid, and it makes it more fluid, and it causes change. But when you don't have that in the air, we don't have that molecule. It's an interesting thing that only very small particles is things what is needed, and it has a morphogenic field and effect on ourselves. But
Let me ask you about the insects right quick. Now, are they born with it, or do they develop it, their selective bias?
It really is always, never not, sort of some degree of a selectivity, which is not bias, in fact. Where bias would be, it would be fixed, set pattern, and not have a capacity to be able to respond beyond that to have the ability to survive. So, for instance, let's just say that some insects, they've got palladium in the back of their eyes, and it's a siderophil that is collected in the back of their eyes because why? It's the most highly reflective substance, and it can pick up far infrared.
Wow.
Yes, signature, heat signature. Plus, when you shine a light on that, it's like that palladium. It's so incredible. It's just stunning, right? There's nothing more brilliant like the eyes, the shining back to you, where eyes have that in it. Yes. So you've got, camel spiders, which really have this in their eyes, and other spiders, insects. And then, are you, when you look at the moon, can you see the relief of all the craters?
See the relief of it?
Yeah, of the craters on the moon.
Sure.
Well,
it depends on what you mean by relief.
Yeah, well, no, I'm talking about relief. You can see all the relief, the relief, perfect. The craters, when you look at the moon.
Okay.
Versus, that's the moon, you can't find. I mean, what happens? Can you see?
It depends on really how long you look at it.
Maybe, yeah.
You can magnify it.
But did you know that insects like those spiders we just talked about, they see perfect relief on the moon?
Really? Wow. That's some pretty good eyesight.
Yeah. They have compact types of physiology in the way that the picture is put together. In fact, it's like pixelated far, far, far more than what your or my eye is sort of set up to be able to do. Okay. So our eyes are sort of really different. So what about bats? I mean, they can be just navigating themselves, and they do it through
their nose,
echo, location,
right?
Echolocation. So as you could make a sound, and you can kind of really know the size and dimension of a room. Yes. And that's echolocation, isn't it? So what would happen if you were balancing on a log and you went out of your balance? Typically, there's a riding reflex that rides you. Yes?
Try.
Yeah, normally. But did you notice that when somebody could have been a child or an adult, they are overriding their riding reflex?
Woo!
What does that mean?
I've seen it.
It means they're just like falling, and they're not activating, they've overridden it. Yes?
Some people accept it early.
But then learned helplessness sort of really is where choice could be existing, which it is, and we don't take that choice.
Okay.
Have you heard of people who fell in love with a slave servant monkey? Slave servant monkeys?
Where?
Oh, all the time. You've never heard of that. It's sort of like learned helplessness, but like there was a fellow in the 60s, in Canada that sort of did a lot of research a bit about this, actually, learned helplessness, Hans Searle. That was sort of a bit of a favoured sort of research, but it was sort of brown-nosed in, a lot of research is. But what about the Milgram experiment?
Tell me about the Milgram experiment.
They selected people, and they had a man in a white lab coat or an authority figure. It was like a doctor, and then they had an actor behind a screen that was going to scream, and act right. And then behind that, they have someone come in who's being experimented on, and you're sat there, and you're just told, listen, this is a learning for the person behind, and we're experimenting how people learn. And so we just want you to give them a shock every time they don't have the right answer.
Okay.
And there's
people would love that.
degrees of shock all the way to kill the person.
Wow.
They wouldn't survive. Well, it would be possible they wouldn't survive. Yes?
Yeah.
Okay, so you've got these levers and you can just you have to do it so it's done like that. I think some 68% of people, I think it was, went all the way to really harm people injuriously.
Wow. That's crazy.
Well, no, you were told to do it. No, you were told to do it.
Oh, you were...
Yes.
But can't you resist? I would resist. It's like, come on, really? Is it worth me learning something?
No, it was set up so that you're not supposed to question authority.
Oh, okay. I like that.
Well, but is that sort of a thing which is going on anyway?
Oh, yeah.
It could be. These are ideas, that's all. You know what I mean?
Every day.
So the Milgram experiment, like as you said, there was a few people that just outright denied it. They just said, no, this is stupid. Honest, yeah?
Well, yeah.
It was about 4%, I think, or something.
Oh, man, not
out
enough.
of 100.
Not enough.
4 out of 100.
That ain't going to cut it.
Did you know that you could hold a placard up, right, which each one, 5, let's say, in a row, 96 or 7% of people, it's 97%
Wait, hold on. What's
of
a
people.
placard?
A placard, just like a card with a picture on it.
Okay.
Going to hold it up to an audience.
Okay.
And one will be held up and then put down, another will be held up, put down, another will be held up. And you're going to, keep your hand up if you think these are the same. And otherwise bring it down if you think, no, it's not. Okay. So at the end of it, everyone has their hand up. And you say, okay, those, put your hand down now who've had your hand up. And if anyone didn't, please put your hand up now because we need to deal with you. And so there's these people, they're looking around, and there's at least 3 in 100.
And those are the bad,
no,
those
wait
are
a minute.
the good guys.
Well, it's just, no, they're bad because they're not a good, they didn't see what was right. We all saw this and we said it was the same. You see?
Yeah.
Now, trickery is going on because actually, in your perception, past 6, adults lose their peripheral perception, you see. So if you do things to them, they're not going to notice that at all. And it's going to work for 97% of people, but 3 out of 100 have a very incredibly unusual way that they look at things. And they have got like photographic memory. They'll read books like 30 in like half an hour. So they have different
I
strategies.
think they're called independents in the political
Yeah, their mind is functionally plastic to take aboard what's excellent.
All right.
Yeah, so a Republic at Peace would be different a bit because we would be verified and we would be selecting ourselves and we would be looking at topics that was interesting to us to raise money for because it would be an asset to us and it's spent then is equal to the asset. But you see, it's put out into circulation so there is no inflation or deflation. So the value of your currency has perpetuity, you see. So this is sort of more logical. These are the things which is in a republic of the dead. That's what that means. It means republic your debt. It gives back to the public. And so revenue means the same thing. It actually is a more powerful word. It means actually where the playing field is. And the venue is from the land, you see. So that's we the people. So when you say revenue, it means bring the debt back to us. This is our credit. We're owed that, and that's been spent, but it's got to be zeroed out. And so it's because currencies of account exist, you see, and that's the real estate because it's your BC certificate, which is actually
They're going to figure out how to make their
you would have a verified system like called .arm, which is a server which we all own, and it would be a public trust. It's a public trust set up as a public trust. You see,
I think if I was running for
timestamped
president or something,
you'd have a verified vote, but you wouldn't need to run for a president because why? No, because it would be decentralized. You see, centralized governance doesn't exist in nature. No, You see, that's a problem. That's monopolization.
I would try to figure out how to make living relatives and past relatives that owe money to the crown, they have to pay it back. You know, I'd be good for the crown. You know?
Yeah, to try to make an argument, it's a funny thing, isn't it? But it sort of can't go against common sense, like you point out. It's terrific because we do what we can. Of course,
to you,
it's
common sense, not to you, but maybe it's common sense to the crown. Yeah, that makes common sense.
No, it doesn't. Common sense is actually what's implied. It's not explicit languaged. No, it's actually implied. So, you know, no matter what somebody said, you could feel and hear if something fitted or not, but you could hear and feel that the words selected are more accurate, or they're really not really accurate, or like, because every single word we use, you and I, you know, or anyone, has a physiology. And so if I said to you, it's better that we would be challenged by something, meaning you can overcome it, versus, oh no, this is a problem which cannot be overcome, you see. So would you be likely to think that way if you watched football?
Yeah.
Yes. Would you be likely if, you know, there would be only just like a monopoly of anything? And that's the reason why we can't stand monopoly at all. And that's the reason for the Articles of Confederation. That's the reason for common law itself. And that's for common sense, like you're pointing out. It's common sense that if it's your property, government's only there to protect your private property. That's it. That's the definition of government. It's your property to lift your own arm. It's your property to have the joy of being the guardian and of your children. And it's their property to have you as their guardian. That's a property, you see. It's a property. But if everything was just put into code, that's going to be not right, because, you know, they can't show the law ever. No, that's wrong. And a code could be just like written by French people, like if you listen to the last show, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's kind of not right, is it? These are examples of precognitive commitments, because like we would think that you're going into court, let's say, but it's rigged because it's not the venue from the land, and they're only looking at an issue from it being commercial. And it's not a commercial, there's a crime is not commercial.
Criminal.
No, that's a theft, could be. But a criminal could be crime, you know, of various degrees, sorts of crime and things. But a crime is a victim, and somebody must have been a victim, and they could, to point what that is out for sure. Mm-hmm. But somebody could not be a victim. Well, you know, you can't then have a commercial crime. There's no victim. Yes?
I don't know. I feel that we're all victims, right? Because we were born into a system. Mm-hmm. One our choice. Is it the best one so far? Maybe.
Well, most people, when you're born, we would say we wouldn't be wanting to make a contract with you as a baby. That's one thing, as you pointed out. That would be an unconscionable act. But that's what happens with your birth certificate. So a grown man who owns a company private is owning your birth certificate as the state of the state of the state. And couldn't this be behind the idea that you only have an election versus you are not selecting? Why? Well, because if I'm giving you a service and you got used to that, you know,
yeah,
shouldn't I just keep hold of that service because I'm giving you a service?
Sure.
And I use all the groups to do it. And it's like a chessboard, on a chessboard, see? So that's not really a fair system that you're looking at all, because we all value consensus building decision making, because like you were saying before the show, it's better to vet things where anything is, in fact, because why shouldn't it be? I think that's so good, in fact, because we all would care for that. What would happen if you didn't have transparency?
Which we don't.
Okay, so well then how can you make decisions when you don't have transparency?
It's very hard.
Yeah, you see, this is where the people, we are supposed to have a thought that some transparency exists, and people would say that does, but it really doesn't, yes?
It should be a law that you must be transparent in public office.
Well, if it's okay for a private company because it wasn't government, or it could be interpreted that way because it's plausible deniability. Pipelines could have been cut for sure, and Germany could have really been upset. Obviously, people there that were in partnership and everything, and they got upset. But then the BMWs all got just dumped into the Atlantic after that. You see. It's really, what would it be if off-terrain is, the mastery of off-terrain is what's existed where something is, where you and I, we could have this because we could have .arm, which is an alliance of law movement, which is just really based upon common sense and common law. Yes, and that's what the international law is, isn't it? Yes, but if you don't have any check and balance on that, no internal balance, you're going to be controlled from the outside.
Well, it just seems like we're being controlled from everybody else.
Yes, but
everybody else.
Yes, well, you see, because we don't know, you and I or anyone could have control from the inside, like you started out to say, that if somebody really has more mastery over their inner self, the outer world then is the same as inner world, and there's mastery. But mastery really is more behind and below in support, and everybody would say that the master is more the servant's servant is a good definition. And but as you said, these are all precognitive commitments. But a precognitive commitment would mean that your mind might not be very functionally plastic to pick up various things, like, for instance, a stereogram. You've got just one dot diagram, you're looking at it, and children and people with a plastic mind, they're functionally plastic, they can pick the pattern out pretty quick. But then if somebody's doing things inside, it's absolutely stopping them from being able to have their mind not occupied so they can suddenly see the pattern. But if the mind is occupied, it's not going to be easy for them to see the pattern, is it?
Got the mind the gut.
So if we got the mind, but we do it because we don't want people to be able to be empty, because we're going to put 8 overtones in there instead, only by putting 4 beat and 4 timing. And the only thing you're ever going to listen to is 4 beat, 4 timing, or can add up to that because it's 2 beat. And so at the end of the day, all you can have is 8 overtone. And how are you going to make a rose with 8 overtone? You can't. You have to have 13 at least. And now you're going to make something pretty sharp and crisp. Yeah.
All right, let me ask you real quick too. Fluoride in water, good or bad?
A mineral could be mined from the earth, and the fluoride could come from aluminium smelting, which is toxic. And what do you do with it? Because it really is a byproduct of aluminium smelting, which it doesn't have to be, but it is in the processing of it at the moment. Okay. Because aluminium is never found naturally. You can only find aluminium bauxite naturally.
Aluminum?
And that's useful to
Aluminum.
you. Yeah, as an aluminium bauxite as an enzyme. And so it's enzymatically active. Versus something which is of a mineral and it's just mined from the ground and it's not really got any enzyme in it at all. It's a toxin, it's a poison, and every single heavy metal like that is. But when you put that into the water supply purposefully, and when you do it, the effect of it is to dull someone's thinking completely, and actually show that it eventually knocks out 1p36 gene and doesn't let the VMAT2 gene be present like it should be. And so suddenly rats aren't aware and they'll start to have mess nest. They don't make their bed in the morning. They leave it all crumbled and just
Have a dirty apartment.
And and it's called mess nest in their mind. And so these sort of children can't sit still. And it's because they've seriously got less than any inhibitory neurotransmitters, and they've got a lot of circumstance which is excitatory, and it's like causing the mind to go fast and dart around and what have you. But these things all can be healed up, you see.
Okay, when they started putting fluoride in the water back in the day, why? What was their excuse?
It dulls the mind when they
But
put.
what was their excuse to do it?
Well, in the 1920s there was euthanasia, and so they were putting decrepit people, they were sterilising them and putting them to death
Wow.
because they considered it not to be useful to society.
Was this in our country or somewhere
Yes,
else?
no, here.
Wow.
And
Okay.
then training was existed for that by certain groups. But you see, this is all from a precognitive commitment that if you do harm, it's going to do good. And this is a luminist.
What's that?
Yes?
Okay.
It means you have to commit a crime to be able to do something in a religious sense, to be a luminist, and it's really a wrong idea. But
Sounds like a wrong idea.
what about if
That's common sense
only
right there.
you have one group fraternizing and being in the company, and everybody else, you're not a company, you're civilian, you've got low class, you're never going to make the stratification to actually have a platform and all sorts of things. Yes?
That's right.
But then you only could have to be a homosexual to get into the club.
Well, you got to start your own company.
Because
Avoid that.
if you fraternize, are you going to maybe have different values?
What is this club you're talking about?
I'm not just saying if you fraternize, what's the reason why we don't care for people who fraternize, especially to be in government?
Selective bias, maybe.
Well, of course, yeah, there could be big, huge selective biases there, especially if you can only be a homosexual to be in the club. Because you're going to have to do things which is like get cold, kill, all kinds of stuff, and you have to accept green on green, meaning, it could be friendly fire, and you could blue on green, meaning it could be something as a part of a mission that's sorry, but like somebody be sacrificed, and you have to accept that.
I don't know.
You see,
I don't think I'd accept it.
No. You see, this is the Milgram experiment, more or less. But what about the water cooler effect at Max Planck? That's a good experiment. It's sort of like about gossip. The power of gossip.
Very powerful stuff. Very entertaining
Yes, because
stuff, too.
because the grapevine is something we really trust. It's like, and the reason why is because we're all social, and we're generally looking after others, and that's the reason for it. But we could be being manipulated radically. We don't have a defence necessarily against that being manipulated, because it's just too normal that if something was gossip, it would probably be right, because it's like, grapevine. But we don't know that grapevine could have been manipulated, you see.
Yeah.
So if you've only got a boss and it's far away, and that centralisedness of something is really crazy, because it doesn't. I mean, decentralization is what exists because you and I, we can know what's happening here, but how could somebody know that far away? There's too many reasons for what the common sense is of having things decentralized as governments, and doing away with all the centralization is. It's really wrong. It is better that all of us have the similar common law as we always have had, and there was a time in the past which it was 176 nations, and those 176 nations all were, in a republic of peace before that slowly got broken up, you see. But this was in a golden age. You got two golden ages that you're looking at, well and truly, where buildings and gorgeousness was built, and it never was built again, ever. Do you ever wonder about that?
No.
Why was brutalism afterward? Because the fine science of everything disappeared. So we could just say, could civilization fall to debauchery? That's the question.
Well, I think right? I think we're trying to be driven into another dark ages.
A good experiment was the Max Planck experiment called the water cooler effect. And what they did was they had 32 people, and they all had to trade with each other and take notes. That was just all that. And they were being experimented, but they were being looked at video-wise and stuff. It was really quite incredible, matter of fact, because I would pick up people's expressions and stuff, because the people that were there were being experimented experimented on. And all that they had to do was trade, and they were given some rules how to trade and given a certain amount of money, and stuff, token and things, and they were just trading, right? But they had to take notes, like who's a good trader, who's a bad trader, that's all, And there's some reasons why someone's a good trader, someone's a bad trader, a few reasons, that's all. Because it's about trading, okay? So everybody's like looking for the good trader, and everybody's like noticing who's a bad trader, they're making notes. And these are your private notes, well, you just think that way, but suddenly they say, okay, stop, hand your notebook in. And now they're looking at everybody, and everybody thought, wait a minute, I wasn't making notes for people to look at. I said, no, my notes are, I said, no, hand your books in. So everybody's sort of a bit bothered, That's who asked to hand the books in. But everybody's books hand in, and they have to accept that because, you're there getting paid for a bit of money, whatever, it's an experiment. And it's all to do just with trading, and they just ask you to hand your books in. So they're quick, smart, have a look. And in 5 minutes, they've handed the books back to everybody. So it's like, oh, well, they didn't read anything much. And they said, well, we've got a bit of good news and a bit of bad news. What do you guys want to hear first? And they go, well, I wasn't thinking that was part of anything, what's this? You can see people's expressions a little bit, Anyway, so we said, well, we want to hear the good news, And they said, okay. And so let's just say everyone mentioned that Sally was the worst trader. Everyone. They noticed Sally's just damn crazy. And to give her a 1. And Nicholas is there. And Nick, in everyone's book, honest to God, got a 10. Nick was like the best. Okay. He was really good. He was like a carpetbagger. He was like, had fantastic ability to negotiate with everybody. He was getting along. And he picked up quite a few scores and was making out like a bandit, actually, behind the scene. They said, we just noticed, just to let you know, everybody said Sally's a really good trader and Nick's a bit of a scumbag, but don't worry about it. People can improve. Let's get on with the way. And so, people think, scumbag? Nick? They look at their book. You can see people, they can't believe. They're looking, they're just so, they can't believe that they wrote Nick's name down. He's got 10. But Nick's a scumbag, you see. Now, Nick is just, they're looking at Nick, see, the cameras, and he's a little confused, he's a bit upset. He's angry, actually, you see it. He's angry, right? Yeah. Now, people are looking at Nick and they're going, fuck, he is a scumbag. Yes, because he's angry, He's angry, right? Anyway, so, and Sally, she's like beaming like a Cheshire cat, you see? She's smooth, suave, you see. She's smooth. So suddenly, people are looking at their notebook and they're going, this can't be right. They're looking at each other and they're kind of a little hesitant to continue on with the game because they're not sure what's up.
Is this how they choose their celebrities?
No, it's called Soaring Horse. You're not going to have time to think about it. You're on to the next activity. Yes, we're not giving you time to think. You're already trading with Nick and Sally, and people are immediately gone to Sally.
And the purpose was to prove
Nick, you can see it. Everybody just kind of wondering, and it just left Nick alone for a second. Okay. He's just about the last person to be traded with. It's sudden.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes. So it's called a selective sort of in a moment bias. Yes. And so a sort of transient bias, you see, we have. So, for instance, I'll give you another example. Like, for instance, the Rorschach ink blot test.
Oh, what's that?
It's like you put some dots of ink and you fold a piece of paper over and it makes kind of a symmetrical sort of a shape, yeah? And then you interpret what the shape is, right?
Okay.
So you've got people individually, they've all interpreted it good. And now you have a group, they interpret it, and now everyone has to interpret it after that. Did you know that the group think has caused you to modify how you interpret this?
Really?
For everyone. So there's a reason, because like we're instinctively social, you see, yes?
Okay.
So what I'm just saying is that something is existing, of course, which is logical, and something is ourselves looking over and perhaps not being able to determine that our behaviour isn't you, which that's true. You're not your behaviour, you see. So it would be very limiting if we said, no, I'm my behaviour. So what would it be if an adult was raised, and if you were in attitude, somebody said, oh, that's my identity. See, this goes on for kids. It's a misnomer, isn't it? It's like a name, getting a name wrong, or what the name is, causing people to think something behind it. Like a name means not you, of course. It's sort of a way that you're just identified, but it's not you.
Okay.
But it could be you more, relate to you if it was in lowercase or something.
Example, right? I'm identified as really cool, but that's not me, right? Good example.
It's you, because somebody could have a acceptance of a balance inside themselves, which is a really great criticalness, which in good leadership you've got a criticalness of one's own thinking. You can hear and see and feel that someone's critical within their own thinking, or they're asking others to be considering what other confounding variables might be in a picture. Like, for instance, if the tabulation of the results of the election was given to a faraway firm to tabulate, and they just made up what was needed for the boss, for
the game,
for the boss,
to play out.
the owner.
Yeah.
The owner.
Oh, I mean, come on. They say it's going neck. They say, these certain states neck and neck. Blah,
Well,
blah,
who's
blah.
the most powerful person in the Navy, for instance?
The admiral.
Is somebody who can
admire.
Write a check.
Oh, well, that would be the most powerful person in any entity, right? They can write the check.
Yes. Okay. So how do you get to write a check? Tell me.
Well, hard work.
No.
What?
No.
Nepotism.
Yes. It's a lot. You see, so this is not right, because these jobs should be open to everybody, but they're not.
Whatever. I mean, that's...
Well, no, but if it's constitutional, it's supposed to be open to everybody.
Well, if something you built, you give it to whoever you want.
But what happens if the office is for rent?
Rent it out.
But you see, this could be going on, and then if you don't mind, we don't mind. It's like, if you don't mind, we don't mind.
That's right.
This could be not right. So if you're only 2 or 3 people walking along, and you hear someone screaming, help, 100% of yourself is like you care. How much of yourself do you care in that circumstance?
Well, I mean,
There's 3 people you're walking along.
You got to at least look around and say, okay, what's happening?
No, I'm asking you, how much of a percentage inside of yourself do you care when 3 people are with you and somebody needs help?
Well, we just go.
Yes, okay. So
you run towards it.
Yeah, all 3 probably act as one, in fact, exactly.
I would think so.
100%.
Somebody may be the first one in the group to do it.
No,
but,
you answered correctly. No, you're ethical. You said 100%. No, you answered like how we react. It's 100%. We 100%.
Well, people are listening.
What if 100 people hear someone screaming?
Well, not everybody is people. You're going to ignore. A lot of people will ignore it.
Yes, we could think of various reasons why
distractions, earbuds.
Well, no, we just think that Johnny's going to take care of that. Maybe we just think Johnny's going to take care of it.
You're right. Somebody else will handle it.
There are 100 people.
I'm busy.
Johnny's going to take.
I am busy.
Yeah, so people.
I don't want to get sued.
Yes. So,
get involved.
So where 100 people are there, how much of a percentage are you carrying now?
A lot less.
Okay. So there's a book that's written called Greening of the Common by Garrett and Harding, and it really was sort of revolutionary in the 60s because it was really to do with like public property and how does that get looked after versus like when public property is not getting looked after. Do you know what exists where public property, like a beautiful shed that was there in the mountains, you know, it was 300 years old.
Forgotten.
It actually had a history of an old man who made it and things, and people could stay there and what have you.
That's cool.
And suddenly it's just, it's no longer there. What happened? It's like public property because we all used it, but all of a sudden it's gone. What happens when public property is not being looked after?
Well, I think
would people use a bit of the wood to cook toast?
It disintegrates.
Would they start using the building to cook their toast?
Sure, why not?
You see. So this is the sort of thing that goes on. So where something isn't looked after in the public, we, the people, kind of feel, oh, well, we could just like maybe just, get a bit of spoilage ourselves. You know, it's bounty.
I would love to
bounty.
Take an old school and make it my house.
And where ethic is, of course, we don't do those things because you really are caring more about being in unity, of course, in ourselves. You can only have one master. You can't have two. Somebody can never serve two masters. But if they didn't know it and they had two masters in there, is that sort of like a bit of an example of someone that's conflicted?
You know...
Because most of us might want to do something, right?
I don't know. I mean, here's the deal. One master, who wants a master, period? Nobody. You know, we want our own. We want to be our own master.
Yes, well, I could be just left and not known about where the slowing down of it, is what's here, a body, and somebody thinks they're a body, and they're looking in the mirror all the time, they're doing what they can in their appearance, and they're very egotistical, bowing and scraping and wearing sort of a uniform or something and what have you, but they have a lot of things which you would agree sort of is extremely egotistical versus, and we live in a society where you're the body, but if you're the body, then you want to know a little about geography, you want to know a little about this, that, and the other, and the world a little bit and things, yes? And that's the body, yes? But what if you didn't know I, as you point out? You know, Mum didn't know her centre point, you weren't connected much to her or were, but she didn't know a centre point or did. And so you have no centre because you didn't have a centre point, and you didn't have a dad, so how could you relate? And so the point of your being self-autonomous and your capacity to be interrelated, these two pieces actually is a child. And in parenting, these are things which go on to cause us to have a balance. So if you're out of balance, it's because 50% in balance you're getting information from outside yourself, and that's who, and it's sort of a referential index of a 50-50. And so somebody's in balance in a state like this, you would agree. And then somebody also is in a balance where they are looked upon and they can see internal or external. They could be just so smooth because it's 50-50 there, they're in balance. And it's basic that we could see, yeah, somebody's balanced more because these pieces of themselves are more corrected. The rest is sort of content, isn't it, a bit? But it's not necessarily structural, but it's sort of content-y. You could fit any content in there, but it's sort of got a structure going on underneath everything.
So what you're saying is older people are way better than younger people.
Oh, I'm saying that there's something precognitive, exactly, that cause us to determine the world around ourselves in a set way. So, but it's true that a lot of this it's all set up to actually properly work. So, for instance, a generalization is supposed to be a good one, right?
Is that why they call it a general election?
Or generalization. It's a generalization.
Aha! We finally get to the bottom of it.
Well, wait a minute. No, but you have to have generalization. You can't think without that. Yeah? It's a process.
Sure, why not? It helps. Precognitive commitment.
Well, so important, matter of fact. And so it's a component of ourselves. Another component would be you have to omit.
Omit or admit? Omit.
Yeah, because
what
a lot
do you want to omit?
well,
our soul.
What's superfluous? What doesn't
Let's
fit?
omit our soul when we go and vote.
What's being omitted? What's being confiscated? Like one candidate could be confiscated.
My thoughts are
candy.
confiscated.
Your candy, your date for a candy.
Date.
Well, date for candy.
And our candy
sort
is
of
our
sweeten it up.
Our candy
Sweeten
is
the
our
picture
vote.
up.
Our vote is our candy.
Well, you want something sweetened
They're
up.
collecting the candy.
But you want something sweetened up.
Always.
It's got to be candy for you.
Always.
Yeah, and so it's trickery maybe that you think you could be receiving a benefit, a Benny, sort of it's fitting Benny. It's not maybe fitting you. You could be thinking you're getting a Benny fit.
Okay.
But you could, if you get a Benny fit, it means you must be privileged. You must be on the ledge. You're not private necessarily. That means you must be owned. It must be about love, you see, because love is about the union of what's dichotomous, but it's not perfect detachment, is it? So where you've got perfect detachment,
better be worth it.
Is you've got your self-autonomy and then your interrelatedness. And the system that's set up like this is positive inductive currency and verified information versus lying through your sense. You see, which is a very low order of doing anything, lying through your sense. Where does the word come from, lying through your sense? To have a lying through your sense means something you have is, that you're doing is licentious. You're participating in something which is
licentious.
Licentious. It means licentious.
Is that where we get the word license?
Well, you don't agree that someone could just privately give someone else a license. You wouldn't agree with that. They have a privilege and you don't.
Okay, well.
No, that's not right. You don't accept it. It's not right.
Well, governments are corporation.
Well,
and they're privately giving us a license.
Well, you see, yes, but you and I are the government.
Oh, we're the government.
Well, yes.
Oh,
you and I are allowing a corporation to sort of like to give us a service. And how can that work up to a certain degree, whatever you should be working for us if it can. But someone owns that and, you know, that's the system sort of, but it can be not quite right, really.
I think the next election, we should have a candidate that represents the government and then a candidate that represents the people.
So there wouldn't be any reset necessarily.
It would just be
the same.
A government candidate and then a
but what would be a reset though?
Well, you would have to come up with good reasons.
Okay, so a good reason would be let's plant trees.
It's a good reason.
Okay, let's clean the ocean up.
Hell yes.
Let's give everybody Lifehouse, which is sort of like getting rid of all these eyesores.
I would love a Lifehouse.
Yes, if you knew about it. Okay, that's very sophisticated. So these are exciting things, are they?
Are you saying I can't?
Well, isn't that the things which you would spend money on?
Residents?
Yeah, because you're the real estate. You've got an account, and you're creating currency for the money that you are voting for, and the quantity of it. You own it.
So one candidate means more money in your pocket?
Well, you've just created a lot of money, but you've created the money enough for everybody to spend that's equal to their product and service. That's it. That's quite good, isn't it?
Well, of course, sure, why not?
Yes, well, how much would California have? They'd have $750 billion just for reforestation, for instance. That's just only one. Well, that's only going to give everybody $17,000 in the state. You need to give more than that.
Look, you have to have other projects. Give everybody $1,000 to go plant a tree.
When Green Machine was gone and it left all these communities done for, I mean, the Crown did that because the Crown is the state. You see, same words for the state. Okay. So when they took over prosecution and there wasn't any more doesn't mean that there couldn't be and isn't, but it's just like a system comes along and it's sort of like customer profiling, and people are going to fall into that and others won't. And if the riffraff aren't, who cares? Because it's a monopoly.
And you know what, folks, let me tell you something. going to leave you with the Monopoly. We're going to have to make an episode on that one because, but that's a whole nother story. Glad you're with us today. We'll catch you on the next one. Jub, what do you want to leave everybody with?
Well, I reckon that if you have a happy face inside, which it shows, the brain is more cruel in self. In fact, it's interesting. So it's not anything that can be really discernible on the outside, actually. It's something which is modifying things inside, and it's so deep inside. So I would say having a happy face inside. A lamb and a lion can be there where you are. And is it right that you could get things done more playfully?
There you go. And you know what? There you go. That's your homework. Work on your inner happy face. Take us out, Dr. Judd.